Well, hey there, American Farmsteaders. This is Jenny with the Gramstead Family Farm.
And Donna with Hazelbell Farm.
We are coming to y'all from Northeast Florida as two farmsteaders doing our best to grow our own food and share our homesteading experiences with you in hopes that you can grow a little bit of food of your own.
Yeah, and this week we are honored to be talking with the Compost Fairy. Hey, Crystal.
Hey.
So if you guys have not heard or seen of the Compost Fairy on Instagram, we encourage you to go over there and check her out. She keeps composting light and fun and simple is my favorite part. So it's Compost Fairy with 2 Y's, right?
Yes, for Instagram.
Is there anywhere else that people can find you, or you're primarily there on Insta?
I'm also on TikTok. I'm Compost Fairy with 1 Y. And then I am on YouTube a little bit. And yeah, those will be the main ones: Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I feel like I can't remember right off the top of my head.
No, that's okay. That's cool.
Okay.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we are all about growing food here. And Jenny and I more recently have gotten into composting. And my personal compost experience is in the past, we keep animals, we have cows, and in the past we've been able to compost their manure over like a long period of time, like over the summer, and then use it the following year. I stopped doing that when we had a graze-on contamination, and so I don't have any large big batch compost since then, and I'm kind of lost as to how to really do it. So Jenny has some more recent success though.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, composting for me, it was a game changer when I finally broke down and got serious about an actual compost bin. And so, yeah, because, I would try build a little pallet container or build a pile on the ground and then the chickens destroy it, So I actually ended up taking a broken chest freezer and
Ooh.
yeah. And so that's my container now. So you don't get the earthworms unless you buy worms and put worms in there. But for me, it really worked well because it helped really contain it. And so I'll build my pile on one side of my bin. And every time I flip it, I'm basically just moving my pile over to the other side of the freezer. So that was a game changer for me. But the thing I love about your Instagram channel is how practical you make composting, because I really feel like people are overwhelmed with the idea of composting because there's so many different ways that they don't start because they don't know where to start or what way to go. So
right.
I guess my first question for you is, what would you say to the person who wants to start composting and, where do they go? What's a good way to start on a backyard scale?
So I would first encourage them to kind of understand what all they can compost, just so that they can kind of get an idea of what parts of their waste can be diverted from the landfill to the compost bin. And I think once they kind of get an idea of what they can compost, understand browns and greens, I think they can then start to think about what's good for their environment. So I always try to think about what does your environment look like on hand, because they say compost should get this much sun or this much shade, or should be close to this, close to that, but you have to just kind of base it off what your environment has and what you have and what's the space that you have. So if you can get it close to a water source and can get it kind of a part sun, part shade, do that. But if your yard is just full sun or full shade, you can also still compost in that environment too. So I think a lot of it will just kind of just depend on what you have on hand and what, I guess, just kind of what you're working with essentially. And so I always want to encourage people just to work with what you got. It doesn't have to be this big thing where you have to go and buy a bunch of stuff or have a bunch of stuff. Use what you have and let that kind of I do. When I first started using my bins, I'd had a bunch of like random trash cans around my yard. And I was like, these can be really great for composting. Even before I even really knew like how to compost with a bin like that when I first started composting. But then as I learned, I kind of like made it better. And so I just, I have these like trash cans and I didn't have any holes or anything in them like you're supposed to. But I was still like composting in them like in my own like way. And then once I learned, I like, kind of fixed it as I went. And so I definitely would say just like use what you have on hand, and then if you have to get something extra, then you can, but don't like make it seem like you have to have all these like bells and whistles to go along with it, because it really doesn't have to be that way. I mean, even like with you using the your old like freezer chest, like
Yeah.
you that and that was, I think that's like so wonderful that you repurposed something that you no longer needed, but was able to use it for something else. And so I think that like, kind of just going off what you have and, using what you have is going to be really important. And will make the process seem a little bit easier too, because you don't feel like you have to like, go and grab all these things. So.
Yeah. And I think if people really like open their eyes and really look around to see what they have, you probably have more material sitting around than what you really think you do.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you kind of can realize that, these materials can kind of like flow now to be used in a whole different way, it kind of also just makes it feel good, makes you feel good in a way, because you're using something that may not normally have had like a second life at something else. You're using it for something else, and so it kind of like makes you feel good, because you're like, oh, I don't have to like go and buy something totally new. I can use what I have and save money, and also save resources for the earth. So
Which is kind of what composting is all about.
right.
Right.
You're recycling your food scraps and your waste back to the earth, and so you can reuse other things and kind of like recycle it in like that way too.
Yeah,
So
I love it.
Yeah. I think back to all the money that I've spent on bagged compost. And like the first time I had like a big successful compost pile, I was like, oh my gosh, I just made all this for free.
right.
Like
It's like you grew $100.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, what have I been doing all along? Why have I been spending all this money on bagged compost?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll do it forever now. I think I'll always have a pile now.
I'm desperately trying. So I piggybacked on Jenny's freezer idea and used an old cooler right now. So it's about half the size of your freezer. It's a giant cooler. But I'm very loose with it. I don't follow the rules very well. I throw whatever in there. I don't measure anything. I turn it when I remember, and it's making some compost. It's just not very fast. So I need to get a more efficient way of doing it.
well, I mean, and I feel like even your way is like okay, and a very like, I don't know, like reasonable and expected way, because people have life going on, and so sometimes
Right.
may not be able to get to turning it, or you may not be able to, get to like, measure out how much, how much of like greens and browns you're putting in there, but
Right.
you don't rectify it, and kind of fix it whenever you have the time. And like you said, it's still breaking down, it's still making some type of compost. It's doing it in its own little, and it's just doing it in its own way almost. So
Yeah, I'm very loosey goosey with it, and I have that, and I have a pile where I just throw all my garden
debris.
yeah, and dead leaves and whatever, and turn it like every 8 weeks maybe, kind of thing. I just keep throwing. I mean, there's like stuff growing out of it, so I don't know.
Oh, wow. Yes, I mean that's a good sign if you see stuff growing. It's like, oh my gosh, like there's like this, even though this pile may, like you said, it feels a little loosey goosey, it's like sustaining life still, So, I think that's cool, and I think that's like a good sign, when stuff is growing out of it.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I'm trying, but I could try harder for sure. So let's say somebody, I think the majority of our listeners are people who are in somewhat of a suburbia, maybe in like a rural, like an ag rural residential area, but, maybe like 1 to 5 acre plots. A lot of people are striving towards a working homestead one day, like that's their goal, but they're not quite there yet. And so they're gardening in their backyard, they're buying in compost, and they want to cut out another thing. So compost makes sense to a lot of people right now in that situation. So maybe that all they have are Rubbermaid bins or trash cans or whatever, like you started or like we started. What is the best way to utilize those? I mean, you mentioned drain holes. So like talk to us like we've never heard of compost before.
Yeah. So like when I first started using just like bins and stuff, I didn't really understand that with compost, airflow is very important. Composting is for the most part aerobic process, so it involves air, and so because like the microorganisms that are breaking everything down, they need air and water to be able to survive, and so you need some type of airflow. When I first started composting, though, I didn't really realize that, and so I had like a trash bin, but it just had like a little slit at the bottom that kind of just like would like let some bugs in, but it wasn't that big, and that was it. And so I was kind of adding stuff to the bin, throughout the months, and I was like, man, this isn't really like breaking down like it's supposed to. And then I realized later, I need like airflow. I need like way more air in this bin than what I'm getting. I was finding things. I think it was like maybe at that point like August or something, and I was like, why I'm finding things from like May still in here, Another big thing was too, I wasn't making my pieces small enough. When composting, you want to like make your pieces smaller than usual, so like you don't want to throw in a whole apple and cut it up a little bit. You don't want to just throw in a whole piece of paper, tear it up a little bit. It just, when stuff is smaller, it breaks down easier, just because it gives the microbes more surface area to kind of break it all down. And so I always like to describe it like a piece of ice. Like if it's whole, it'll melt, but it'll be a little bit slower. But if you crush it up, it'll melt like almost instantly. So it's kind of like that with making your stuff smaller and decomposing. But I just didn't really know any of that at the time. But once I learned, then my stuff started breaking down easier, and I started getting really great success and really great compost from my like dump and go bins. And so and what I like to do with those bins is just like poke a bunch of holes on the sides, and then sometimes I'll put like a PVC pipe with like air, like with holes in it as well in the middle of the bin, so that it's like getting consistent airflow even whenever I'm not turning it. And then when you turn it, that is like a extra encouragement or extra piece of way, like an extra way that you can get more airflow in the bin. And so that has seemed to work really well for me in terms of just like having like a nice, contained environment, and really kind of like using kind of what I had on site. So yeah, I think, and you can also use, I learned this from, there's another compost creator, her name is Compostable Kate. She's really great. And she gave the idea of like, if you don't have like a PVC pipe, you get like some sticks, a bunch of sticks, and put them in the middle of the pile. That will also encourage airflow as well. So
okay.
Yeah, so there's like a couple different ways you can do it. But I love just like having just the regular bin with the holes in it, because it's just so straightforward, and I've gotten some really great compost from it. I actually have some. Well, one of the bins was ready, so I'm kind of letting it like. It's really moist, which I really like, because usually my compost has been a little bit drier, but this one's really moist, and so I'm really excited about that. And that compost is looking really, really good. So.
Nice. Very cool. So if somebody's starting with that, and they've got their bins or their trash cans or whatever, and they've drilled holes, they're doing the PVC thing, they fill it all the way to the top. Do you fill it with your materials? Do you need to leave some space?
Well, that's the thing with like um with with composting, the stuff is breaking down. So like even like whenever you like say you maybe throw stuff in there like once a week, the pile's gonna get, or the bin, like the stuff in the bin's gonna kind of like get smaller as you're adding it. And so usually what I do is like if I do get that point to where I am like I've reached the top, one, it's taken me a little while because it has been going down. So I've kind of been like adding to it as it's been going down. But then once I get to the top, that's kind of where I like stop. So that it can all just be able to break down together.
Right.
And so you don't have like half done stuff, because if you kind of keep adding to it, which you definitely can because it is going down, then you'll just have like, finished stuff at the bottom and then like not finished stuff at the top. And so
I think that's my problem is I have like a continuous compost pile. So
Right.
I might get something out of it, but I'm always disappointed because it's not all compost ever.
Right. And
Right. At some point you need to stop and let it break down. Let it finish.
Exactly. Just let it finish and do its thing.
The new pile.
Start a new pile, right.
Right.
It's so simple that it eludes me.
No, but you don't really like, but you don't really like think about it, because like even with like trash cans, like we have someone come and take our trash for us, and then like we get to refill it again. But like with compost, it's like not like the earth is taking it. It's not like some external factor. So if it is just breaking down still, and you can keep adding to it, that's naturally what you're gonna do. But if you want that like the whole bin to be able to like be broken down and like be a nice cohesive bin of finished compost, then yeah, you're gonna have to kind of stop at some point. And then just either build a new pile, make a new bin. It's kind of up to you. But that's kind of like why I have like 3 of the bins. So I was like, oh, I need another one so I can like keep going, So this like fully break down, like, and really like be ready once once it's springtime / summer when I want to use it. So,
Okay, so if somebody's doing, I have some like very specific questions. So like, I have like this static pile that stuff's growing out of. I add to it here and there. I don't really do much else with it. It's contained with like some old wire fencing kind of material. It's full of bugs. Like I imagine there's a bunch of worms in the bottom of it. There has been in the past when I've turned it, but there's like, I need to do it again. I need to turn it again. It's currently growing Mexican sunflowers, potatoes, mint, and some kind of squash.
I love begonias. They're so great.
Yeah, they're so pretty.
They are pretty.
And yeah, they kind of self-seeded everywhere though. I'm kicking myself for letting them go last year. But anyways, when I turn that and I see the bugs and everything in the bottom, I mean, should I be able to use what's on the bottom? The pile's about 3 feet tall. Well, now the pile's about 2 feet tall. It's about 3 feet around. I don't know. I mean, like, I'm thinking if I scoop out the bottom.
How does it smell?
I don't know. I mean,
that's how I always test my compost. If it smells like the forest, it's good to go.
Okay.
If it smells like the woods.
Yeah. No, like that's so good. I would say yeah, because there's some. I think there are some compost systems. I think one of them is called Aerobin or something, where like there's like a specific door that you open to get the stuff at the bottom. So I definitely think you're totally like, I think you can totally start grabbing stuff from the bottom. Like as long as like Jenny was saying, like if it smells like the forest, that's good. If you don't see recognizable food scraps in it, then that's good. If it's like crumbly, like the earth, if it's cool to the touch, then that's a good sign. And then if it feels real moist, that's also a good sign too. So I think I think you can definitely like grab it from the bottom right now, and then just like, I don't know, give the remaining pile a good turn, water it real good, and then just let it like do its thing to finish up. So
okay. So then a pile that's not contained in a bin, does that need to be covered from the weather?
It can be.
Okay.
I think
It
it just
depends.
like preference. I have two piles that are just sitting there and not covered. Just because one time when I covered it, I don't know if I was like hallucinating, if I was really saw it, but I thought I saw some mice underneath the tarp, and I
Okay.
was like, oh hell no, we're not doing
Right.
that.
Right.
Mm.
We have a couple of
Yeah,
good kitties who take care of that for us, but I wouldn't be
you said
surprised.
what?
I've got a couple of good farm kitties who take care of that for us,
Oh
but
my god,
it wouldn't surprise me still. I mean, it's a nice warm place with food scraps in it, you know.
right. So I mean, so like those piles end up like the top layer of it ends up kind of getting a little bit drier. But once you just like you just dig a little bit, then you get like the moist compost. So I think it's just up to you and depending on your circumstance. Some people do cover theirs, and I think that's totally fine. And I think that's great. But just ever since I had that experience, I was like, nope, we're gonna keep it nice and open. So then they don't even think about going over there because they don't want to get like attacked by birds or something. I don't know, but yeah, I think
Okay.
if it's not fully covered.
Yeah. So I think another obstacle that people have with composting sometimes is the fact of how long a pile can take.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really a fan of like, as quick as I can get it done, let's get it done so we can use it and get it in the garden and keep the momentum going. I think sometimes when piles take a long time to break down, some people might just kind of lose interest or forget about it. So what is your favorite way of doing like a quick, fast pile?
So I would say if you want something quick, then like composting would probably be the way to go. Just because it's like you put your food scraps, in the bin, let it ferment for a couple weeks, and then after another like 2 to 3 weeks, when you add it to your garden, it all breaks down, and so that's like almost like a month to 6 week turnaround, and it's a little bit of a.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
Is that a more of a an aerobic process?
So Bakashi's more of an anaerobic process. And so more of it is an anaerobic process. And it's technically like it's fermentation, but we call it composting. But you're more fermenting the food. And then when you add it to the garden, it all breaks down with the soil, and turns into like really rich, like organic matter. And so I would say that, and then along with hot composting is when you get your pile to temperatures up to about like 160 to 120 to 160 degrees. And then with regular turning and watering of the pile, you can get compost. There's a method called the Berkeley method where they say you can get compost in 18 days.
Right.
I'm like, oh my god, that sounds like you have to have like a really good like green to brown ratio and like really great moisture content. But they say if you do it the way that they like describe, that you can get fresh compost in 18 days. But I would say you probably want to let it sit for a little while longer. So I would maybe say like 3 weeks would be good. So I would say like Bokashi and hot composting would be like the two where you can like get the fastest like turnaround, I guess, in terms of like you're getting that finished product. Bokashi takes a little bit more of. I mean, you have to buy or make your own brand, so there is like a little bit of a cost associated with it. But you can make your own bins, and then you have your food scraps. And the thing about Bokashi and with hot composting, you can compost things like meat and dairy. I've added some meat to my. Oh my god, yeah, I had some chicken bones up in there. That compost, it like broke it down. I'm like remembering now because
Awesome.
I just turned one of my piles that was a hot compost pile. I had put some chicken bones in there. Then when I turned it, I didn't see them anymore. And so, and I had also put, at one point bokashi some. I put some raw meat through a bokashi system, and then I put it in the hot pile, and that broke down as well. So you get to like compost those kind of like hard to compost things too, in those two methods. But I would say bokashi is a little bit less labor intensive. Not even a little bit less. It's less labor intensive than hot composting, because with hot composting you have to build the pile, then you have to turn the pile, and then you have
It
to.
just feels so rigid.
It,
It's got to be this way. And like I said, I think I'm just too loosey goosey for it.
Yeah, if you want to get those like high temperatures, because people are like, mine's not getting hot. I'm like, well, is it moist enough? Do you have enough nitrogen? Do you know, like how much carbon do you have in there? How are you turning it often? There is like a lot of, there can be, what's it called? Unless you're doing like windrow composting where they have like the big tubes, that's like more of a large scale thing. But like, yeah, if you're just kind of doing it on the hot compost pile on your own, it's a little bit more labor intensive than just getting your scraps together in the bokashi bin, pressing it down, adding the bran, and then letting it do its thing. So,
Yeah, tell us more about this bokashi.
Yeah, walk us through bokashi from start to finish.
Like, what's a good size to start?
So I would say, like the bins that I was using. So basically, bokashi is a process of fermentation. You have an inoculated bran that has what's called essential microorganisms like on the bran, and those help ferment the food scraps in the bin. And so you want to get a bin that I was using like a 5 gallon bucket. Well, it's more of a 4 gallon bucket, but a 5 gallon bucket was fine. There is like a leachate, so I don't know. So some people just have one bucket and let the juice and everything kind of like pile up in there together, or some people let the juice kind of like release. So if you want to like let it leak out, you want to get 2 buckets of same size, put one drill holes into the bottom of one, and then put it inside the bucket that doesn't have holes so that it can like all leak out in there. And that can be used on your compost pile, or like a dilution. If you dilute it, like heavily dilute it, it can be used on your plants. But you basically just add your food scraps intermittently along with the bran that you use. So you get your inoculated bran. It's usually like a gray, it looks like, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like oatmeal, but like rice hulls, or some type of like some type of bran substance. Like, it has the essential microorganisms on it, and you sprinkle that onto the food scrap. So I would say you add the food. Since it's an anaerobic process, so no air, you press the food scraps down, and then you sprinkle the bran on top. And then you keep going until you're all the way to the top of the bin. Once you get to the top of the bin, you put a nice layer of bran on top, and then close the container and let it sit for 10 days to about 2 weeks. What happens is the inoculant is essentially like fermenting the food inside. So it's kind of what they call pre-composting it, or out-competing bad bacteria, out-competing putrid smells, things like that. And so when you open it, it doesn't just, so especially if you've added meat, or if you added dairy or anything like that, it doesn't have like a nasty smell to it, but it smells kind of like vinegary, almost like pickles, or like kind of not sour, but
like fermenting,
like fermented.
Exactly, yeah, like a ferment, something that's been fermented. And so then, sometimes you'll see like white mold, and the white mold's I don't know. See, that's something I've heard people say the white mold's a good sign. And I actually read one post yesterday that was like, it's not a good sign. So I was like, wait, what's the truth? But if whether you see white mold or not, as long as you have that smell, it has that like fermented smell, then you're in the right spot. And then what you can do is you can bury it in your garden. So what I did all throughout the winter and fall was I just picked different parts of my different beds and just buried it in the bed. And then after, I would say 2 weeks if it's like spring/summer. But if it's like winter, it could probably take 3 to 4 weeks, because it's like colder, so there's less microbial activity. And so, but if it's like, I would say if it's now, it would take about 2 to 3 weeks, and then when you dig in there, it's just going to be a bunch of like really great organic matter and soil, and not any more food scraps. And then you're free to plant in that area, and it's going to be like a really beneficial area for your plants because of all the microbes that are in the soil that are helping, that kind of helping the plant retain nutrients and all that good stuff. So it can take, so I would say the turnaround process from start to finish would be about a month to 6 weeks. And depending on how much food scraps you have, you can do like multiple at the same time, and then almost get your whole garden or wherever you want to bury it, or you can add to your compost bin. You can also add to your compost, get that nice and ready, nice and rich. So it's an interesting process. I say it's a good one for like if you want like a low, like not too heavy energy. I guess like a low, not low energy, but a low. What am I trying to say? Yeah, simple. Yeah, don't really think too much about like, like greens and browns or, turning it or anything like that. It's just like, oh, let it sit and then let it sit somewhere on the earth and then you're good.
So it sounds like the key to that to the brand is that it's inoculated.
Yes, you have to.
You're not just running to your local ag store purchasing brand from the feed mill, right?
No, it has to be inoculated. It has with essential microorganisms, and you can make. So, I don't know. It's kind of like a scientific process because you have to have like I think it's like yeast, lactic acid bacteria, and then one other thing that I can't remember. And you kind of like you have to make the lab and then add it to the brand and then let the brand sit for 21 days and then so it's kind of like a process, like a kind of like scientific process. I've kind of done it. I had bought some brand that wasn't really, I don't know. I just don't think it was doing what it needed to do, and so I had made one of the ingredients, which is called lactic acid bacteria or lab or lactobacillus, and I was guided by a friend who knows a little bit more about this than I do, but he kind of was like, well, just get some of the lab poured on the brand, the bad brand I had, kind of get it not like soaking, but get it nice and moist, and then lay it out to dry. So I did that, and then when I did that, when I added to my like bokashi bins, I was getting more of that white mold that you're supposed to get, and one of the bins was like super like it was just fluffy white mold everywhere, and like it looked pretty good. I was like, ooh, that's kind of nice. But I only had like half of the ingredients, so I feel like I kind of like maybe like skipped a couple of steps. But I like for me mainly like I end up buying the brand just because like you don't need a lot of it. I kind of use a lot because I'm a little I end up using too much, I think, but you don't really need too much of it in there anyway. Like some people just say like a couple tablespoons per like I don't know like pound of food or whatever is like enough. And so the brand can definitely last you a little while, like it'll last you a while. Even though you have to buy it, it can definitely last you so you're like getting the best out of your investment.
Cool. I wonder how using like the liquid off of home fermented foods or like the whey off of our cheese making. We do raw milk and raw cheeses and that. And so if using the whey off of that, because sometimes we use whey as our starter culture for other fermented foods.
Yeah.
If that would be a good way to start an inoculant. I don't know enough about it, but I'm not afraid to experiment.
No, well, because like even with making the lab, like it's like you're making cheese because like when I've made it before, I've just like I've gotten like powdered milk and vinegar together and then just kind of like let it sit, and then after a while this like big cheese just kind of forms at the top and then it's like separated by the rest of it is like the lactobacillus. So I think that what you're doing is like a start to making an inoculant for sure.
Okay.
That's so cool.
And I do throw that stuff on my compost pile. Kombucha scobies.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm very loosey-goosey with it. I'm like, it's organic. It can go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're all like I feel like they're all part of the same little family, So I think like what you're doing, I think that's definitely like a good start.
I'm not getting fast compost though. That's my downfall. So like where Jenny is, but she's a lot more you're just a lot more methodical about it.
Yeah.
Which is necessary if you want fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried that fast method when I first set my freezer up. I can't remember what you called it, the 18-day compost. What's the name of the method? Yeah. 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 So that's kind of loosely what I followed. And mine took more like, I think I was ready to go by like 24, 25 days, which I still thought was amazing.
Yeah.
To have compost ready to go. But that particular pile that I got to break down so fast, because it's in a chest freezer. And so I took PVC pipes and ran them down the side of the freezer and underneath my pile. And then I hooked up my air mattress pump.
Oh my God. You're going to have to send me like a video or like a picture of this so I can visualize it.
Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel. If you go to the Farmstead family farm on YouTube, I have a composting playlist, and I've got the setup in there on one of the videos. But yeah, the idea was to set it up on a timer, but I couldn't find a timer that would turn on like every 5 minutes for a minute. So
right,
it was a little too much.
Wow, 24 days is really good.
Yeah, so
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah, I think for me, if I can get anything, I'm happy. Like because I have bought in so much compost with we're still in the works of establishing new garden beds. And so, that first year garden it's hard after you've gardened pretty successfully in the past. And so we're kind of in second-ish year garden beds and still adding compost all the time, trying to better the soil. And we're starting to see the benefit with the first beds as opposed to the most recent beds that we put in. And so always adding more though, always. So if I can get anything, I'm happy, but I need bulk. Like I need a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really want to try that bokashi thing that you're talking about and like maybe trench it in my raised beds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because the hard thing for me with that is then you bury it for like the second step is to bury it, right?
Yeah.
And it's got to sit for some time buried before you use that ground. We pretty much garden year round here. We're in Florida. So there's not a lot of weeks that we're not gardening. So I'm trying to think of how,
like all your beds are always in use.
Almost always.
Most of the time.
Yeah, I'll have a portion of the winter where like half of my garden is under a tarp. Mm-hmm. Well, not even for the whole winter, for like maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah. There's a good month, like around February, that we're not growing much.
Yeah.
You also, you can also add it to your compost bin or your compost pile. It almost serves as like a compost activator because of all the like microbes and microbial action going on in there. So it can definitely be something you just because my beds are about to start being in use too, as I've been like growing stuff, and so I'm gonna start just like adding my bokashi bins to my compost pile, and like it should also like help it break down a little bit faster too, just because like there is more microbial action because it is that nice activator to like jump start and get it going. So
cool.
Yeah, you can definitely like do that, or I don't know, maybe just have other dilapidated areas in your yard where you can just throw it in there too. So. There's definitely or the people do like soil factories. That's a good option for people who don't have a yard. You kind of just get like a bin and fill it up with different soil, then put the bokashi bin in there, cover it up, and then let it do its thing too. So that's kind of an option as well. I haven't done one yet, but I want to do one soon so I can try it out. But yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, that'd be good for people in condos or apartment dwellers.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So have you ever done any bins? You know how you see people, they'll like do a compost bin that's like kind of sunk down into their garden? and it has like holes in it so the worms can like crawl in and break stuff down. And what do you think about that?
I haven't done one of those yet, but I definitely want to. Like the keyhole garden type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I think I do want to try that. I think I've just been like just sticking to my
What you know is working and what
yeah.
you figure.
Yeah, but no, I like that idea just because like it does kind of like give like it gives like like access to nutrients kind of like right then and there. Only thing is just like I don't want to like have like a competition of resources, I guess, in terms of like the breakdown of the like compostable material and then like the needs of the plant. And so, but I think kind of like keeping it away from like the plants, I like that idea. So it's something I definitely want to try. I just haven't tried it yet.
Mm-hmm. Well,
cool.
I'm getting on the bokashi train.
I think so. That sounds super interesting. I've only heard a little bit about it before now, and just enough to go, ooh, neat. That's kind of neat. So yeah, I think I like that you can do it in a small space. And
it doesn't smell either. Like, some people are afraid of like having a smell, but it's like no, unless you take the bin out of the bin with the leak, then you can kind of smell the juice. But if it's just sitting there, like I just keep mine in my den and they don't smell at all or anything like that.
Interesting.
Nice.
Very
nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to add organic matter to our sandy soil.
Yeah, we're very sandy here.
Super sandy. So
right.
And it adds some diversity to the soil too, which I think is good.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah, it was super fun talking with you about composting.
No, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate you having me on the show. This was really nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on. And I always look forward to seeing your reels and stuff that you're making on Instagram. So they're super fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much.
Yeah. If y'all want a little bit of compost entertainment, go check out Compost Fairyy on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Yeah.
And you will be entertained and educated at the same time.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Crystal.
Thank y'all. I look forward to hearing it, and I just appreciate y'all having me.
All right. Thank you.
Y'all have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.